the prosecution is alleging that it was his inner circle that enabled him to be able to engage in these acts, but also hide these acts from the public and for it to go on for so long.
A few weeks ago, P. Diddy's trial kicked off, and since then, it's been an avalanche of revelations. From Kid Cudi claiming Diddy stood like a supervillain after allegedly blowing up his car, to a growing list of people stepping forward to testify against him. The drama has only escalated. But with the storm of headlines has come a cloud of misinformation. That's why I'm here, to break it all down and explain exactly what's going on. But to understand the chaos unfolding today, we first have to rewind. Let's keep it brief. Most of you know Diddy, also known as Puff Daddy P. Diddy, or by his real name, Sean Combs. He's a rapper, producer, and music mogul who launched Bad Boy Records and signed legends like the Notorious B.I.G. His influence in the 90s and early 2000s was massive, so massive that he eventually became one of the richest figures in hip-hop. We're talking billionaire status that I say that because it's important to grasp just how much power and control he's wielded in the music and entertainment world. For years, there were whispers, stories that painted Diddy as more villain than visionary, from rumors he had a hand in blowing up Kid Cudi's car to dark theories about his involvement in Tupac's death. But nothing ever stuck. Not until 2023, that's when Cassie Ventura, his former girlfriend, filed a lawsuit. Her words were chilling. After years in silence and darkness, I am finally ready to tell my story and to speak up on behalf of myself and other women who face violence and abuse in their relationships. According to the lawsuit, not long after they met, Diddy began drugging her to make her compliant. She says he beat her multiple times a year and forced her to sleep with male prostitutes while he filmed. He had total control, her music career, her apartment, her car, her clothes, even her medical records. All tools to dominate her life. And it gets darker. As the years passed, she claims he coerced her into disturbing acts, watching, filming, and pleasuring himself during these encounters. He allegedly threatened her career if she ever dared to speak out or disobey. The lawsuit sent shockwaves through the industry. But then, in a move that raised eyebrows everywhere, it was suddenly settled outside of court, which, let's be honest, felt a lot like, I don't want these details spilling out in a public courtroom, so here's some hush money to make it go away. So here we are. A powerful man, once untouchable, now on trial, while the world watches. And this time, the silence is breaking. Regardless, this set off a chain reaction. Lawsuits started pouring in against Diddy, accusing him of everything from abuse to assault and more. He was literally named in hundreds of lawsuits. And while all of this was tearing apart his public image, legally, he was still standing. That is, until the feds showed up at his doorstep. Homeland Security released a statement saying, earlier today, Homeland Security Investigations New York executed law enforcement actions as part of an ongoing investigation with assistance from HSI Los Angeles, HSI Miami, and our local law enforcement partners. We will provide further information as it becomes available. During the raid, both of his sons, Justin and Christian, were handcuffed. That made one thing very clear, either because of the lawsuits or even before them, Diddy was already on the federal radar. After the raid, CNN dropped footage that shook the internet. Diddy physically assaulting Cassie in a hotel hallway. This was the first solid piece of evidence the public had actually seen, and it looked really bad. So Diddy did what most public figures do in a crisis. He released an apology. So difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. Sometimes you gotta do that. I was messed up. I mean, I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior in that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility. I'm disgusted. I'm so sorry. I'm committed to being a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry. But then came September 2024, and everything came crashing down. Diddy was arrested and indicted by the feds. According to the indictment, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used his business empire to commit criminal acts, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. They claimed he abused, threatened, and manipulated women and those around him to satisfy his desires, protect his image, and cover his tracks. And to pull this off, they say he used his own employees and companies to build what amounted to a criminal empire. The indictment stated this went on from 2009 and continued for years. Combs assaulted women by, among other things, striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at them, and kicking them. The attorney referred to Combs' enterprise, Diddy's business empire, as a criminal organization because many of his employees were allegedly working to conceal everything he was doing. They claimed those employees were involved in or attempted to engage in trafficking, forced labor, transporting people across state lines for prostitution, coercion, enticement, narcotics distribution, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. But the most explosive part of this case, the one that has shocked the public the most, is what's now being called the freak-off. Basically, the accusation is that Diddy would host these wild, days-long parties powered by drugs and alcohol, where he allegedly coerced both men and women into sexual acts. These weren't just parties. They were dark, orchestrated operations where power, fear, and narcotics were used as tools of control. So, as implied by the statement from the U.S. attorney, there are 3 major charges against Diddy: racketeering conspiracy, trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and interstate transportation for the purpose of prostitution. There are a lot more disturbing details in the full indictment, which I broke down in my previous video, but this is the heart of the case. All of this leads to the ongoing trial, where Diddy is getting hit hard by a growing list of credible witnesses, each one making it look more and more like this case won't end well for him. When you're indicted by the feds, that usually means you're cooked. It means they've gathered enough hard evidence to believe you're guilty of the crimes they're charging. So this trial wasn't looking good from the jump, but now witnesses are dropping bombshells that could lock Diddy away for a very long time. First off, you might be wondering why this trial isn't being live-streamed like others. That's because federal criminal proceedings ban electronic media coverage. So, instead of footage, all we've got are courtroom sketches. At one point, his team even tried to get a mistrial, but that went nowhere. Right now, Diddy is staring down 5 serious criminal counts, 1 count of racketeering conspiracy, which could land him in prison for life, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, each carrying a mandatory minimum of 15 years and a max of life, and 2 counts of interstate transportation for prostitution, each carrying a max of 10 years. Diddy's defense team, now led by Brian Steele, yes, the same viral attorney from Young Thug's case, is arguing that he's innocent of every accusation. They rejected a plea deal and came out swinging. One of their key strategies is to paint the relationship between Diddy and Cassie, one of the main alleged victims, as one of mutual violence. They claimed Cassie was strong-willed, capable of instigating physical confrontations, and not the passive victim the prosecution describes. But things took a darker turn when prosecutors revealed what they found during the raid of Diddy's homes. They said they discovered 2 AR-15 style rifles with the serial numbers scratched off, an unsettling amount of sex toys, and over 1,000 bottles of baby oil or lubricant. They also found large quantities of drugs. In response, Diddy's team brushed it off, saying, "Baby oil isn't illegal. Everything was consensual." They also claimed the guns were found disassembled and therefore inoperable, which honestly sounds like a weak excuse. Prosecutors argued that the close proximity of these weapons to the drugs and sex paraphernalia shows that the threat of violence was used to coerce victims into participating in the so-called freak-offs. They even displayed a fully loaded handgun found tucked inside a piece of luggage. And like I said, they found a cocktail of pills, marijuana, powders, and other substances prosecutors believe were used to keep women compliant and functioning long after they were physically exhausted. This case mainly centers around 4 victims, with the most prominent being Cassie. She's essentially the star witness. After being in a decade-long on-and-off relationship with Diddy, she saw it all and suffered through it. Much of the testimony so far revolves around his alleged abuse of Cassie. The trial opened with her on the stand. She testified that after signing to Diddy's record label, their relationship started off normal but quickly spiraled into control and violence. She claimed he would threaten her if she didn't obey and forced her into the freak-offs. Cassie also recounted multiple instances of physical abuse, including the now infamous hotel hallway incident caught on camera. In her words, "When I chose to leave, I grabbed what I could and got out. Sean followed me into the hallway, grabbed me, threw me on the ground, kicked me, and tried to drag me back into my room." The defense's counter? They leaned hard into old text messages, arguing that Cassie was a willing participant. Today marks the beginning of Cassie's cross-examination. The defense is armed with thousands of private messages between the two. One early message from Ventura read, "I love you so much it consumes my life." But defense attorney Anna Estao introduced a more explicit exchange. Ventura wrote, I'm always ready to freak off, Combs. I can't wait to watch you. He replied, me too. I just want to be uncontrollable. But when the defense tried to twist the narrative, Ventura wasn't having it. They presented a message she once sent to Combs. I miss you. I miss our lovemaking sessions in the afternoons. When asked if that referred to freak-offs, Ventura calmly responded, not necessarily. She testified that even after that message in 2016, during a time when she says Combs hit her in the face, she tried to rekindle their romance. But let's be clear, wanting love isn't the same as consenting to violence. A hotel security guard named Israel Flores took the stand and backed Cassie's story. He said he saw multiple surveillance videos of Diddy assaulting her in 2016. After responding to a call about a woman in distress, he found Diddy and Cassie in an elevator. He described Diddy's stare as devilish and claimed Diddy tried to bribe him to stay silent, but he refused. Then came the testimony of Daniel Phillip, a male escort. He claimed Diddy would pay him to sleep with Cassie while Diddy watched and pleasured himself. But what shocked the courtroom wasn't just that. It was when Daniel said he saw Diddy hurl a bottle at Cassie, grab her by the hair, and drag her into a room as she screamed, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He said he heard what sounded like slaps and violent crashes from inside. He was too scared to intervene because Diddy's power was real. Another bombshell came from Dawn Richard, once a member of Diddy's girl group, Donity Kane. She told the court she witnessed several abusive incidents. One morning, while she was cooking breakfast, she recalled Diddy coming downstairs furious, demanding, where the F my egg, and yelling at Cassie for never getting anything right. Then he picked up a skillet and tried to hit her with it. Cassie fell to the ground. Dawn also saw him hit Cassie in public, including once during a dinner with Usher, Neo, and Interscope Records co-founder Jimmy Iovine. Again, this is all alleged, but when this many people are telling similar stories with chilling consistency, it gets harder and harder to believe none of it's true. Then came Carrie Morgan, a close friend of Cassie's. She testified that she saw Diddy assault Cassie on 2 separate occasions, once in the hills and once on a trip to Jamaica. I heard her screaming, she said. I went to the hallway. It was long, and I saw them coming out of the master bedroom. He was dragging her by her hair across the floor. Carrie admitted she eventually stopped talking to Cassie after Diddy attacked her too, choking and hitting her. She also confessed that after she threatened to sue, Diddy paid her $30,000 in hush money. Even Cassie's own mother took the stand, revealing that Diddy had threatened to release tapes of her daughter and shared photos she took, showing Cassie physically battered from his hands. Another male escort testified, saying he worked with them multiple times. And get this, he goes by the name The Punisher. Yeah, kind of wild. He described scenes eerily similar to what the first escort recounted. When asked if Cassie seemed comfortable, he said, apart from some flinching, she seemed fine. And that detail is critical because the defense's whole narrative rests on the idea that Cassie was totally on board with all the so-called freak stuff they were doing. But that version of events keeps falling apart. Several other witnesses, including a makeup artist, a stylist, one of Diddy's former personal assistants, and more, all testified that they saw him assault Cassie. They talked about bruises, gashes, and moments when he screamed at her with terrifying aggression. Their stories all lined up, painting a chilling pattern of abuse. A psychologist was even brought in to explain why Cassie might have stayed in the relationship despite the violence. But here's the twist. Diddy's abuse allegedly didn't stop with Cassie. It extended to others, including rapper Kid Cudi. One of the most explosive allegations in this trial is that Diddy blew up Kid Cudi's car. For years, it was just a rumor swirling online. But now, it's been addressed in open court. It all traces back to the early 2010s, during one of the rocky breaks in Diddy and Cassie's relationship. Cassie started seeing Kid Cudi, and when Diddy found out, things escalated fast. Cudi testified about 2 terrifying incidents. First, he said Diddy broke into his house. Then, he shared with the jury his belief that Diddy was behind the firebombing of his car. Cudi said in December 2011, Cassie called him, her voice trembling, scared because Diddy had discovered their relationship. Moments later, Cudi received a call from Diddy's assistant, telling him Diddy was already inside his house. Cudi called him, and Diddy said he just wanted to talk, but when Cudi got home, no one was there. However, something felt off. His dog had been locked in the bathroom, and some of his unopened gifts had been tampered with. Spooked by what he saw, Cudi called Diddy and said he wanted to talk. but he changed his mind and called the police instead. He also revealed that Cassie had confided in him about Diddy abusing her. Fast forward 1 month, and Cuddy got a call. His car was on fire. Someone had sliced a hole in the roof and dropped a Molotov cocktail inside. Based on his previous run-in with Diddy, Cuddy suspected he was behind it. After the firebombing, Cuddy met up with both Cassie and Diddy. Diddy claimed he had no idea what had happened. But what stood out was Diddy's demeanor. He was staring out the window, hands behind his back, like a Marvel supervillain. Years later, they bumped into each other again, and Diddy said he wanted to apologize for everything and claimed he had made peace with the past. Then things got even weirder. After Cuddy testified, Young Thug called him a rat, and a bunch of people seemed to echo that sentiment. Kanye even said something similar on Twitter, but let's be honest, that's Kanye. Still, this whole mindset is insane to me. We're talking about a man accused of rape and abuse. You can't rat on someone like that. Period. That was Cuddy's side of the story, but he and Cassie weren't the only ones to speak up. An LAPD officer and a fire department arson investigator were also called in. The officer said that when he responded to the scene, he saw a black Escalade speed off, and when he ran the plates, it turned out the SUV was registered to one of Diddy's companies. The arson investigator said neither Cassie nor Diddy's assistant would speak to him. That might make more sense when you learn what came next. The assistant at the time said she, too, had been abused and threatened. Capricorn Clark, who started as Diddy's personal assistant and eventually became head of marketing for his fashion brand, testified about working for him on and off from 2004 to 2018. And apparently, in 2011, during the Kid Cudi incident, Diddy allegedly kidnapped his assistant and forced her to go with him to Cudi's house. According to her, early one morning, Diddy showed up pounding on her apartment door with a gun. He forced her into a car and told her they were heading to Cudi's place. She claimed Diddy was planning to kill him after discovering Cassie and Cudi's relationship. Clark said she was left in the car while Diddy and one of his security guys went inside, hunting for Cudi. After what she described as a wild car chase, Diddy allegedly threatened to kill not just Cudi, but her and Cassie too, if she ever told anyone what happened. Later that night, she said she also witnessed Diddy physically assaulting Cassie. And all of this, it happened just weeks before Kid Cudi's car got firebombed. That's 3 people now backing up this one terrifying story, on top of the police finding a vehicle at the scene registered to Diddy's company. Absolutely insane, but it doesn't end there. A number of other witnesses have also testified against Diddy, painting a similar picture. One of the most disturbing testimonies came from Diddy's former personal assistant, David James. James said that the first time he stepped into Bad Boy Entertainment for an interview, another employee pointed to a photo of Diddy and said, "This is Mr. Combs' kingdom. We're all here to serve in it." Already off to a creepy start. James spoke about his daily responsibilities, stalking hotel rooms, buying drugs, and allegedly driving Diddy, who was armed to the teeth, to go confront Suge Knight. That feud between Bad Boy Records and Death Row Records? It's legendary. And it sounds like Diddy was ready to roll up on him, personally, with James in the car. That's the moment James realized something terrifying. He said, "I was really struck by it. I realized for the first time, being Mr. Combs' assistant, that my life was in danger." A hotel manager in Beverly Hills, Frederick Zamore, recalled how Diddy would regularly stay at his hotel, always arriving with a crew for what he described as freak-offs. Frederick said Diddy would spill candle wax on everything, drench the rooms in oil, and leave behind such a mess that he had to mark the rooms as out of order for deep cleaning every single time. Then there's Joshua Croft, one of the Homeland Security agents, who briefly mentioned discovering an account tied to the name Frank Black, an alias Diddy allegedly used. There wasn't much more detail on that, but come on, using a fake identity like that? It's more than a little suspicious. Capricorn Clark had even more to say. Her nightmare, she claimed, began on day 1. Diddy allegedly threatened to kill her if she ever had further contact with Suge Knight, because she had worked with him in the past. But it didn't stop there. Later that same year, she said she was held captive for 5 days in a rundown, locked building in Midtown Manhattan. Why? Because 3 pieces of high-end diamond jewelry loaned to Diddy had gone missing and Clark had been in charge of them. During those 5 terrifying days, she was subjected to multiple lie detector tests by Diddy's people. She was threatened, told she'd be thrown into the East River if she failed. Every night, one of Diddy's security guards would drive her home, only to tear her apartment apart looking for the missing jewelry. After all the tests failed, Clark says she was fired. But then, inexplicably, she was rehired for Diddy's birthday party. Eventually, he pressured her to go work for another record label, but she returned once again to Bad Boy Records. Then in 2012, after reporting the 2011 kidnapping incident to a Bad Boy executive, she was fired again. The label claimed she was fired for improperly taking vacation, and Diddy told her she'd never work in the music industry again. She ended up winning a wrongful termination suit over the whole ordeal, but the settlement amount was never revealed. Diddy's defense kept trying to punch holes in her story, asking questions like, why would you keep coming back to this job if all this terrible stuff was happening? I mean, you got kidnapped twice. She explained that she had no choice. She couldn't get hired anywhere else in the industry. When she was employed by Diddy one last time in 2016 as a creative director, she said every single decision about Ventura, from her hair and clothing to her entire schedule, had to be personally approved by Combs. So, clearly, from all the stories we've seen come out in this trial, a disturbing pattern is forming. Not much else major has happened yet, and the trial is about halfway done, assuming things stay on schedule. And while it's not looking good for Diddy, it doesn't seem like the prosecution has much more to offer beyond what's already in the indictment and what's been confirmed by the witnesses. Now they're just bringing in a stream of witnesses to support and stack up the narrative they've already laid out. Also, quick editor's note. Everyone's wondering whether Diddy will testify in his own defense. My go-to source for that kind of legal insight is Bruce Rivers, the criminal lawyer, and I think he nailed it. The question of the day, will Sean, the P. Diddler, the Diddler Master, actually take the stand? Here's my prediction. He will. And here's why: he's got nothing to lose. Absolutely nothing. Normally, you don't want your client to testify if you can help it, because most clients aren't polished or prepared for the pressure. But this case is different. It's not just a he said, she said situation. Sure, part of it is, but there's a mountain of corroborating evidence beyond Cassie's word. Still, if the jury only hears her side of the story, where's the counter-narrative? Who's saying that's not how it went down? Unless the defense has a bunch of witnesses ready to flip the script, Diddy may have no choice but to speak for himself. Also, another wild editor note, Trump was recently asked if he'd consider pardoning Diddy. His response? Well, nobody's asked. You had to be the one to ask, Peter. But nobody's asked. I know people are thinking about it. I think people have come very close to asking. First of all, I'd look at what's happening. I haven't been watching it too closely, although it's getting a lot of coverage. I haven't seen him. I haven't spoken to him in years. I don't know. I'd certainly look at the facts. If I think someone was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't impact my decision. Anyways, if you want to stay up to date with news on this case and everything else going on in the music world, make sure to subscribe and follow for more. And I'll see you next time.